Hello, I'm comparing the texts my activity was comparing the texts Walter Was Worried and My Friend Suhana. Before I get started, I do want to note that the edition of My Friend Suhana that I'm using is a Kindle edition, which I would not use with a group of students, but it was just the quickest way to get the book here at the beginning of the semester. So, when I was writing my journal about the two books, I noted that the theme of Walter Was Worried was that a situation can be difficult but not insurmountable, and it often ends well. And then I thought that the theme for My Friend Suhana was that friendship is about how you feel, not about external abilities or necessarily commonalities. So to do this comparison with the group of children, I would start with Walter Was Worried. And I think one of the main questions that I would start actually with asking about what they notice about the cover. I know one of the questions that my group discussed on our discussion board was the fact that this cover doesn't have any words on it. It's in fact the back cover that has the title and the author on it. And so that might be good for building emergent literacy skills among the children. And then kind of drawing in the connections to their own lives, like, oh, what do you worry about? When have you been worried? Or what could help you? What does help you when you're worried? And I would also sort of try to raise the question of what they notice about Walter's facial features, because Walter and all of the other characters in the book have facial features that are comprised of the letters in whatever emotion that they're dealing with at that page in the book. So Frederick was frightened, and all of his facial features are made up of FRIGHTENED. And they're actually, what I like about this book is the way frightened is written is the way it's written on Frederick's face, so you can see the colors and the letters, and they match up one-to-one, which is great for young children who are pre-literate but starting to recognize letters or identify, their general letter forms. One of the questions that I would ask during the reading was, what colors they noticed for each of the emotions. I did want to ask when they felt ecstatic, or if anyone could define ecstatic for me. For this last page, Elliot, or not the last page, but one of the last pages, Elliot was ecstatic, because I think that it's a word that most of the students probably haven't heard before, or if they have, they might not be able to define it, so I think it would be a nice stretch to build vocabulary. And then, of course, after they determine what ecstatic means, they can talk about when they have felt ecstatic. I, particularly for the page Shirley Was Shocked, I kind of wanted to draw attention to the colors that the author used, the red and pink and the really vibrant colors, see if the children noticed a connection between that and perhaps Upset, which has darker colors, darker blue and red. And then after Walter Was Worried, some of the after-reading activities that I would do would be creating a web of synonyms for each of the emotions that were expressed in the book. So like ecstatic, the children might suggest happy or joyful or smiley or something along those lines. The intellectual development goal activity would be children will acquire and refine concepts. So they would maybe think of antecedents for feeling each emotion. So like a surprise party would make me ecstatic, or a thunderstorm would make me worry. And I thought the social and moral development goal, children develop empathy, would be brainstorming how they could support a friend feeling each emotion in the book. How they could support a friend who was worried or upset or frightened. And then, so My Friend Suhana was, let's see. So it's a little difficult to see, I apologize. It's about a girl who volunteers with her mother at a community center for people with disabilities, and she becomes friends with a girl. So the narrator is named Anya, and her friend Suhana is a girl who participates at the center who has special needs, who's not as independent. She has cerebral palsy, so her movements aren't as independent. She can't yet talk, but she can still she does have a level of cognitive awareness, and so she indicates how she enjoys spending time with Anya. And I thought this illustration in this book, while we were reading the text, I would definitely talk to the children about the colors that they notice, because that's also very important in this book. Anya makes Suhana a picture with a rainbow to represent all the ways she feels about Suhana. And so this last picture is a representation of the picture that Anya drew for Suhana, with the stars and the kite, and really just how they work together. Anya says that Suhana, the picture she painted for Suhana, the colors represented Suhana's mood. So red is for when she's upset, and blue is for when she's calm, and pink is for when she's feeling loved. And so during this reading, I might ask the children to compare the colors in Suhana as opposed to how colors are used in Walter Was Worried, because pink being for love versus pink being for shocked, I can obviously see both interpretations, but I'm really curious how the children would interpret that and what they would think about the differences between those two. Sorry, one of the after reading activities for after the children I have read both of those books would be what do you notice about the facial expressions in Walter Was Worried compared to My Friend Suhana. Again, hoping to draw attention to the fact that Walter Was Worried, the characters had letters for their faces, and in My Friend Suhana they were more typically drawn faces, but in My Friend Suhana they were still very expressive, and I think there are some comparisons to be made there. And then I just want to ask explicitly, what do you notice about the colors overall in Walter Was Worried and My Friend Suhana, so that children could see and really have a chance to process and think about the differences in the ways colors are used, because in both books they're used very symbolically, but not necessarily in the same way. And so I think it's important to kind of cover with them that colors are often tied to emotions, and colors may have a lot of different emotions tied to them. So one of my after reading activities for after reading both of them would be finding unusual words and write them on a large piece of paper with synonyms or definitions. And I think that could also be tied to the emotion definitions from after reading Walter Was Worried. And I think having both of those activities completed would make for an interesting literacy lesson, kind of finding which words the children found important and which words were interesting to them. Thanks.